This is the life of the job. This slide and maybe the next one or two, yeah, are more for the foremen that are listening to this right now, because I know there's a few of you. Guys, this is the life of a job. The lead comes in, it's pre-qualified, shin food, it's sold. We got to communicate the scope of work. We got to hand it off to someone in pre-production. So there's a sales part of the life, moves into pre-production. We got to schedule the thing, plan the resources from the job. We got to do a scope review, a site visit, pre-job visit, whatever you want to call it. And then we got to put it into production. And if you notice here, these blue boxes here on the screen are basically the foreman. Most of them are. Most of these things in here fall in the realm of operations, production. Now, you can have some administrative support and stuff, but the sales guy, he needs to be bringing oxygen into the business. All right, then we get into production, where it's like, how are we going to do the job? What's the plan of attack? I got to give daily updates to the office or whoever's in charge of the master calendar so they have a clue what's going on. Okay, we got to track some jobs, job costing. I got to train people. Okay, maybe there's some additional work that pops up or problems on the job that we have to address and things like that. And then when the actual construction part, or the main part of the job is done, how are we going to close the job out? All right, we had our guys give people a closing packet that had warranty information in it. Some of you guys, you know, that actually install things like pumps and stuff like that might need to schedule time to walk with them and teach them how to use the equipment. Okay, whatever that final walkthrough looks like, detailing the job, cleaning the job up, final job costings, addressing any concerns, and then a thank you. Now, again, some of this can be shared with the office, all right? So this is kind of the life of the job. Now, let me go to this next thing. When you are a successful foreman, one of your roles is to protect the time of the owner, okay? Because here's a lot of what the owner is dealing with. And usually when I share this stuff with the average foreman, they're like, holy shit, I had no idea. Okay, the average owner's got to deal with marketing stuff, everything from the website to social media to email, networking, offline strategies, direct mail, billboards, networking groups, you name it. Then they got to sell. Okay, hopefully you're saving a shitload of time using Shinfu, but you still got to sell, estimate. There's appointments, there's follow-up calls, there's revisions. I mean, raise your hand if that's taken a shitload of time of your career, right, guys? Just that alone, the revisions and follow-ups, okay? Then you get into human resources stuff as an owner. I got to recruit, I got to hire, I got to train, I got to deal with insurance crap, okay? You know, bookkeeping, payroll, training employees, compliance of certain things depending on your industry, permitting, blah, blah, blah. And then you got vendor meetings, banks and loans and state and federal bull, and the IRS wants an audit and all these other things. Give me a yes as if you're an owner, if you've ever been overwhelmed by all that. And I'm going to type yes, because I have too. So guys, when you have the right foreman in place, or when you are the right foreman, you have to understand you are adding massive value. You're taking so much off of the owner's shoulders. Okay. And I'm not playing a sad song with a violin for the average owner here. I'm not looking for sympathy for them or anything like that, but you got to understand that the average contractor owner is walking around with like an anchor on his shoulders, you know, like a ship anchor walking around. It's heavy. And then you add on top of it all the stuff I showed on those previous screens about what it takes to run a job site. It's a no wonder. Check this out if you didn't know this. It's no wonder that the construction industry, out of all industries in the United States in a study done a year ago, led the way for suicides, was the construction industry, because of all this pressure. All right? And that's just the suicide part that we're not seeing. Okay? The other side is how many more people are depressed and unhappy and just at the end of their rope. Guys, this is important stuff. So if you're a foreman, understand that you're adding massive value to the owner of your company. And if you're an owner of a company, you got to make sure that you are letting go of this stuff. You are investing in your people, setting them up for success so that they could grow and so that you could get that anchor off your shoulder a little bit as well. You guys with me? Yes? No? up yours, something like that. All right. So here's some low hanging fruit that you can have your foreman do for you today. Or if you're a foreman, you can do this for your owner right now. Guys, ask for a proper scope of work on every project. Do not start a job as a foreman and don't hand a job to your foreman if you don't have an exact scope of work. And I know some of you guys are artists, okay? Screw the artist stuff here for a minute, okay? Have a conversation with the client. If it's artist pond stuff, building a waterfall, well, it's not like we're not going off the inch on a diagram. I get that, but you can still have a conversation like Steve does in his company. He calls transfer the trust meeting. Hey, which way is the waterfall going to face? And what's most important to hear, that it's looking natural and you see the sun going down, behind the waterfall. What's going on? Like, have these conversations and put that in writing. Okay. If you're going to paint something, or you're going to fix something, or you're going to build something, have a specific scope of work. This is a scope of work that Dan gives on his jobs. Okay, scope of work: included surfaces, siding, soffit, fascia trim, window frames, door frames, painted doors, railings, porch ceilings, stair risers, brick. Excluded, and he lists the things that are not included. What materials are we using? How are we going to clean the surfaces? Guys, you see this, okay? Finish coats, number of coats. How are we going to paint the door? If you don't have an extremely detailed scope of work, I personally believe you're costing yourself a bunch of money, okay? So, the other part here, if you're a foreman, do your own estimate on every job. Your owner hands you that scope of work and it was for 100 hours worth of man hours. Do your own estimate. When you do your pre-job visit, walk through and go, okay, it's this and this and this. If you don't think you're going to be able to hit the job hour budget, you should let your estimator or owner know before you start the job. Some of you are like, well, I don't know until we get into the job. No, that's just laziness, okay? I get it. There is little, tweaks here and there, okay, and little variances here and there. But for the most part, if you know what the hell you're doing as a foreman, you know how long things are going to take. A lot of times, a business is hurt because we don't take the time to recognize that we're about to start a job that's going to hurt us, when we could get our heads together before the job starts and figure out how to make sure that we could save some hours. Okay. Track everything that happens on the job site and give feedback every week in the operations meeting. Guys, these are the things that a thinker does. Simon Sinek: leader's job is not to do the work for others. It's to help others figure out how to do it themselves, to get things done, and to succeed beyond what they thought possible. You, as the leader of your business, when your phone rings and goes ring, 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 and it's your foreman out in the field, it's your guy out in the field who says, hey man, we ran into this issue here on the Smith job, blah, 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 blah. A lot of times we automatically go into problem solving mode because we've solved the problem a million times. The best thing you could do here is to ask a question, turn into a coach, turn into a shrink. Well, hey, Joe, tell me what you've already tried to make it right. Hey, if you weren't able to call me, how would you resolve this problem? What do you think you should do? Do you understand the difference? You just tell them, because when you ask these questions like this, you are training them to think instead of you having to fix everything. And then over time, they're going to rely less and less on you. And by the time they call you, they're going to say, because this happened to me, hey, Tom, it's Tony. I'm out here on the Smith job. This is what happened. This is what I've tried. Me and the guys put our heads together, and we're still having this issue here and wanted your take on it. It's a much different phone call, and my phone rang a lot less because over time we taught them how to think, okay? And when you teach them how to think, there's so many other things that go along with this. Is the type of culture that you have where they feel like they're adding value, they're being respected, they're making contributions to the success of the company. They're going to be more likely to stay with you and not bail because somebody offers them another buck later on. Okay. You guys with me so far? What I want to do is this. I want to go to your questions here. It says, my biggest struggle is to lead with numbers. Do you have a mic, or just type in what your issue is here? What do you mean by your biggest struggle is to lead with the numbers? There you are. Okay. Hey, what's up, man?
You got me?
Yep. All right.
Sweet.
So what's the deal?
So I want to figure out how I can best communicate the numbers of the job to the guys so that they know how they're doing. So a lot of times I communicate with the objective, like, hey, here's what we have to get done. Here's the pre-walked through video of what the job's supposed to look like. I expect it done in 2 days. Peace.
Yep. Okay.
I think there's more that needs to be said than that, and it needs to be more like, okay, here's kind of what I think the GP is, or I don't know what the next thing should be, but I feel like we've got that down, 90% of the time, or at least 80% of the time. And I feel like somehow we should be leading, or I should be giving the guys a little bit more than just that.
Yeah, absolutely. So how do you estimate the job? How do you come up with the time?
I just kind of think about how long it's taken them in the past to do similar stuff, or how long I think it'll take them, and then I just throw a day rate at it.
Yeah, so I break everything down in tasks. Okay. If you've seen my other stuff, there's softwares, like we had a painting software. The thing that's on the screen now is Sherwood's. It's Estimate Rocket. Like you could literally go caulking, blah, blah, blah. And I don't have it on this report here, but there's a different report that actually gives the hours for every task. And I personally think every single one listening to this call right now should break down every phase of the job by man hours, because it's the only way that you're going to have consistency. If you're just going out there and you're going licking your finger and holding it up to the wind and coming up with a number, you're yourself over and you're screwing your guys. Okay. Because there's never going to be, you can't scale that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like if you're going to build a 30-foot retaining wall that's such and such high or whatever, I don't know anything about retaining walls. There should be a formula that you guys have come up with over time. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So that now remember, estimating is part art and part science. The art is your experience. The science is just some math. Like, hey, on average, it takes, 1 man hour to put 2 coats on 100 square feet of drywall without any prep. Like that was just in our software. We just preset some of those things. And so I would write down every time you go out and write a job, start with this. If you don't want to get into the software thing and that's all overwhelming, start with 3 phases of the job. You got the prep, you got the actual build, and you got the finish. Okay. And so, and I have, I have a sheet somewhere that I can get you if you email me later. I'll give it to anybody. I'll put it in the group to somebody remind me, where it's basically a sheet that says how much prep, and however you define prep, we defined prep, what has to happen on and off the job site all the way up until we open a can of paint.